All right, everyone, welcome back for episode 3 of the Pieces of Impact podcast. Really excited to have you back here again. Means a lot. If you are returning for another episode, I'm going to jump right in here and I'm going to highlight the 4 ideas that I'm going to talk about today. And I'm not going to waste any time jumping right in. The first one's going to be talking about the importance of investing in the things that create high returns for you. So things like your gym, books, your sleep, investing in good food, those kind of things I want to dig into a little bit here for the first idea. The second idea, we're going to talk about a interaction I had with a complete stranger and the lesson that I took away and what I think you'll find valuable in it too. And the third idea that we're going to talk about is a Twitter thread that I found pretty interesting. It was a recap of a conversation that David Senra had with Brad Jacobs, who's a successful entrepreneur. They talk about problems, people, and perspective. And finally, the fourth idea that I'm going to talk about is a just brief breakdown of an episode that Mel Robbins had on her podcast with a doctor. Her name's Christy Musalam. I hope I'm saying that right. And they talk about how small, consistent lifestyle changes can dramatically extend lifespan and improve your overall health and avoid a lot of diseases, cancers that can come about as a result of not taking care of yourself. So let's jump right in here with the first idea, and that's to invest in yourself. It's the highest ROI that you're going to find out there, one that you probably will not necessarily be able to see as easily as a number on a screen, but you'll feel it. And I talked about this on my second podcast episode a little bit, but the things that you spend the most time in, like your bed, your shoes, things like the food that you eat every day, those are the things that you should not care about investing in because of how impactful they are on your daily life. I think people talk about compounding returns in finance, but I actually think that the same principle applies here for your habits and your health. I think that when you invest in the things that keep your mind sharp and your body healthy and strong, those returns are going to quietly compound in the background every single day. So, like I said, think books, real food, sleep, a gym that you actually want to go to. I think that if investing in a gym that might be $100 a month versus $50 a month is going to make you more likely to go to that gym because of the amenities that it has, then go for it. Do it because going to the gym 3 or 4 times a week is going to beat one time a week by far. And I guess an example to demonstrate this would be I personally want to have a home gym eventually, just because I think about the time that I could get back from commuting every day to the gym. I guess it's on the way to work. I mean, I live 17 minutes from my gym. So let's do some simple math and say that to and from my gym is 30 minutes a day. And let's say I go 4 days a week. That's going to be 2 hours a week that I spend in my car just getting to the gym. And that's being conservative. That's 104 hours a year, excuse me, that I would get back then by having my gym at my house. And then also, there's less friction when it comes to actually getting in the car, driving to the gym that might prevent you or me from actually going and having a workout. I think some people say that having a home gym actually makes them less likely to work out. I have not found that to be the case for me. I don't even know why I said that. I don't have a home gym, so I don't know, but I would like a home gym. Books are another area of my life that I never feel guilty about investing in. I will spend however much money a book costs. I like to read nonfiction books and fiction books. I do nonfiction for the morning time and fiction in the evenings. I think that nonfiction's nice when I'm sharp and I have a lot of creativity and ideas. And as the day goes on and my just brain gets beat to mush, it's nice to wind down with a good fiction book. I've been reading a lot of Timothy Zahn's Thrawn books right now. I'm also and that's a Star Wars series for those of you who aren't aware. And then I also like to read some Game of Thrones, some of the Game of Thrones books, George R. R. Martin, fantastic. It helps me sleep. I know some people would say, why is Game of Thrones helping you sleep? But there's just something about fiction that winds my brain down. Anyway, I digress. I think that buying books, when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, uh, they're not that expensive. They're $20. You probably, if you went to high school or college, you paid thousands of dollars for those classes. And I'd argue that some books give the same, if not more value than a $2,000 college course. But that is open to debate and different for everyone. So I'm going to jump to idea number two, which is my story about the stranger that I bumped into. His name was Dan. And I'm going to start by saying that I like to run in the neighborhood behind my gym. And I've been doing it now for about 10 months. And I always jog by this older gentleman who sits in his chair and watches the sun come up. He holds a fishing pole, has his radio next to him, and he's smoking a cigar every morning. I can smell it when I'm rounding the corner, and I'm going to share an image here so you can see his view while I share my story here. There we go. It should be on the screen now if you're watching on video, but if you're not, no worries. I'm just going to talk through it. Anyway, I've been running past this older gentleman now for about 8, 9, maybe 10 months. He waved to me every morning, and then one day I woke up and I had this really, really weird gut feeling, I guess, one morning that I felt like I had to go up and talk to this guy. There was just something inside of me that was telling me, you got to go up and introduce yourself or at least figure out what his name is. Um, so anyway, I walked up, I introduced myself, and I learned that his name was Dan. He was a 22-year Air Force veteran who was retired, and he said that that was his favorite part of his morning, watching the sun come up and fishing. I told him that I have a passion for collecting impactful pieces of advice. I told him I have this podcast and I like to learn things and listen to folks that have more wisdom than I do. Um, and I like to share that wisdom with others here and hopefully provide them value. So I asked him, what is the most impactful piece of advice that you could give someone who's my age in their mid 20s and carry forward? And he said, and I quote, "Trust your gut instinct. It's always worked for me, from choosing my bride to joining the Air Force." And as I jogged back to the gym, I just could not stop thinking about his advice. I mean, I had followed my exact gut feeling that morning that told me to walk up and introduce myself to him. And the exact advice that he gave me was that. It almost felt like a sign or like the universe was winking at me, I guess. Um, but it really meant a lot to me. And I think that I'll probably trust my gut a little bit more moving forward. And I hope that you do too as a result of hearing this. So I'm going to stop my screen share now and jump to the next idea. Alrighty. Idea number three was from a Twitter thread that Wouter T. Unison put together. And I apologize if I mispronounced that. I probably just butchered it, but it's a great, concise list of 30 ideas that he took from the episode that David Senra recorded with Brad Jacobs. Like I said, successful entrepreneur. And it's just packed with a ton of wisdom. And there was a few that hit home for me around mindset, leadership, and how you handle pressure that I highlighted and I wanted to share here. I could go through all 30, but I don't want to bore you. I'll just hit the high notes, the ones that I like the most. The first one being that problems are just opportunities, in work clothes. When people that worked for Jeff Bezos early on brought him a problem, they were really worried initially until they saw his reaction, which was completely counter to what they initially thought it would be. He was ecstatic, very excited that a problem was brought to him because he realized that by solving problems, that was going to increase the value of their business and the value of the company that they were building. And it's actually, I think, a good lesson, and it's important to embrace things that a lot of others avoid, because where you can find value is right in those things that others run from. So good lesson there. The second one I highlighted was your personal brand is why people do or do not do business with you every day. You are raising the bar or lowering the bar. This one's pretty straightforward. Do the right thing. The basics, like I think I said this on my last episode, looking someone in the eye, shaking their hand, showing up on time. That's all part of building your brand. And I think it's very important that you lean into those things. They might be small, but they go a long way. I'm going to jump ahead now to the next one. You don't want to tolerate problems. You want to embrace them. I just really hashed this one out with the Jeff Bezos example, so I'm not going to really dig into this one again. The next one's a good one. He talks about tactically what's the difference between A, B, and C players. And he gave the example of someone coming to you and telling you, as you're the boss, and telling you that they want to quit. So he gave three different examples, starting with the C player. So I'm going to read exactly what he wrote, which is: imagine an employee comes up to you and says, Brad, I quit. They say, this is not a conversation about you making me a counteroffer. I'm done. I've already moved. This is about a conversation. How do we make an orderly transition? Because I respect you and I don't want to leave you high and dry. And then Brad, who was the guest on the podcast, says, feel and visualize what the reaction would be if that person came to you and quit like that. And if your reaction is, yes, this is actually a really good thing, I think that this is actually great deep down, like you're not saying this, but you're thinking it, maybe I don't have to pay severance. No problem at all. We'll replace you. That would be a C player if you're feeling that way, where you don't really get bummed out that that person's leaving. The second category, which are the B players, he said that his reaction would be, this kind of sucks, but I mean, I would have preferred that you stayed, but it's not the end of the world. That would be a B player. And then finally, the A players, which you want all of these. He said, my reaction to them quitting, to that kind of person telling me that they were leaving, is pure terror, an absolute panic. And it's like somebody hit me in the stomach with a baseball bat and then punched me in the face. And he said that he's like, oh my God, I'm never going to find someone as good as her or him. There's no way I'm never going to have that same person or someone as talented as them. He said that's an A player, and you cannot let those people leave, and you need to find as many of them as possible. So I think this is a good exercise. If you're in a leadership role, when someone does come to you, try to think through this in your head. I'm going to keep moving. The next one is: don't learn to handle stress, learn to enjoy it. And I think this is a tough one because um, stress is hard. It's not that complicated. Stress is not fun. People don't want to be stressed. I don't want to be stressed. But if you can teach yourself to actually lean into it and learn from it, and understand that the more that you lean into it, the quicker it's probably going to be over and end. Um, you learn how to handle it. So I thought that was a good one. And the next one is: don't be rigid in thinking. Don't be black and white. Be open-minded. Be receptive to being willing to learn and be challenged. It's okay to be proven wrong. It's actually a good thing. I love this. I think that if you are just you got the horse blinders on, you think that everything that you believe is correct and you're not open to changing your mind and admitting when you're wrong and taking ownership of when you're wrong, man, I just think that's a tough way to go about things. And you really can close yourself off from learning a lot and growing as a person. So I thought that was a good one. The next one I highlighted was: you have to be absolutely brutal in the management of your time. I thought this was great. You got to learn how to say no. It might sound selfish, but you're actually being selfish to yourself for committing yourself to too many things and overextending yourself. When you learn to say no, you get your time back, and you'll find that it's a lot more peaceful when you slow things down a little bit and you have more time for what actually matters to you. The next one is: it's up to you. You can diddle daddle through life and sleepwalk and then die, or you can live. You can embrace life. You can have big dreams and go all in and find your passion and really achieve something fantastic. For me, that's the big motivator. This was the final one that I highlighted, and I think the most impactful. Don't go through the motions. Please just go for it. Take a risk. Do what you love. Find things that excite you. Find maybe, whether it's having a family, having a career that you're really excited to go show up for every day. Um, I don't know. I mean, taking a class that you've never done before, just do something that scares you, something that actually gives you life. I'm not going to overcomplicate it. Let's keep moving. The fourth idea now for this episode, jumping ahead, is a breakdown of an interview that Mel Robbins did with Dr. Christy Musalem. Um, And like I said, she talks a lot about how just consistent lifestyle changes can be dramatically impactful on your life, and they can improve the way that your overall health is. I mean, it can prevent disease. So there was a couple stats that I wrote out that I thought were pretty interesting. And the first one was about berries and survival. So this is more diet focused. She said that for breast cancer survivors, just 2 servings of berries per week can increase the chance of survival by 25%. Now that I'm reading that, it's actually a little bit of a confusing stat. So I'm not going to double click into that. Let's keep moving. Because I think the caveat of for breast cancer survivors up front, I think I read that wrong when I wrote it down, but we'll keep moving. I digress. Fiber was the next topic in cancer prevention. She said that eating enough fiber can reduce the chance of getting cancer by 22%. She said that over 90% of people are fiber deficient, meaning that they don't get enough fiber in their diet. I love fiber. I think that it's satiating, meaning that it makes me feel full, and it helps me with portion control, which is something that I've struggled with. So I think that personally, after adding more fiber into my diet, I noticed a major improvement on my appetite and just overall eating habits. And I guess there's a less of a chance of getting cancer as well with it. So that's pretty neat to me. And the stat, I mean, 90% of people, 9 in 10 people being fiber deficient is pretty scary. The next thing is just about whole foods diet and longevity. She said that if you're in your 20s and you start eating a whole food diet like fruits, vegetables, healthy proteins, whole grains, you can increase your lifespan by up to 13 years for men and 11 years for women. And then she kind of doubled down by acknowledging that for the people that are older than that, like, crap, like I'm screwed. She said, no, that's not the case. If you're in your 60s and you receive a breast cancer diagnosis, this is an example, switching to a completely whole food, healthy diet can add 8 years to your life expectancy. Then she said, if you're in your 80s, transitioning to a whole food diet can add around 3.4 years to your life expectancy. I think actually 3 to 4. That was a typo. The takeaway is, though, that it's never too late. Your body rewards change at any stage. So lean into this a little bit. And then next, she talked about sleep and metabolic health and the fact that getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night gives your brain time to heal, clean itself, retain information, and actually manage stress. So it's counterintuitive. You might not feel like you have enough time to do things, but by sleeping less and trying to do those things, you're actually going to make yourself more stressful, and it's just going to snowball, and it's just a never-ending cycle. So the more sleep that you get, the easier everything else will become. It's really amazing how it works when you lean into this. The message, like I said, simple, focus on whole foods, real good sleep and movement. She said that those are the basics that people often ignore the most. And I read a Peter Attia book, Outlive, kind of recently, and he talks about medicine 3.0, which is preventative medicine, not reactive like medicine 2.0, which is what we have now. And that's treating diseases only after they arise. So I think that Christie's advice leans really well into this. And both of them argue that if you focus on doing the small things now, like eating real food, exercising, even if you're just taking a 30-minute walk a day or just moving your body at all, it doesn't have to be much, and sleeping well, you can prevent many of life's biggest health struggles. It's not that complicated. And Dr. Musalam's a cancer survivor herself, and she beat it. Pretty remarkable listening to her story. And I thought it was really empowering hearing how she found her way through it. I hate cancer, and I'm all for finding ways to beat it and beating disease, anything that weakens people. And I think her story and probably many others prove that the power of lifestyle can be some of the best medicine. Okay. So that is my idea number 4 wrapped. And I guess to recap, we looked at 4 different ideas that all kind of share a similar thread of hopefully providing value to you. The first one being investing in yourself, paying the highest dividends. We talked about trusting your gut as the second idea. That story from bumping into Dan and seeing his morning routine, watching the sunrise and trusting his gut was pretty cool. The next one was learning from Brad Jacobs about problems, people, perspective. I thought that was pretty neat that overview. And then the fourth idea was Dr. Musalam's advice on lifestyle medicine and how impactful it can be. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I know it's a little shorter than the last one, but I hope that you found value in it. And again, I'm looking forward to eventually bringing guests on here and learning from them as well. But obviously, I'm trying to build a little bit of a track record up before doing so. So again, I really appreciate you if you stuck around this long, and I hope you have a great rest of your week, finding things that are interesting to you and of value to you, hopefully too. Take care.